Then you get where the spindles go up against the railing and everything else too. So now you have another corner, or actually
Yeah.
in each of those pockets, you got an additional 8 corners. It's corners everywhere.
Back on the Ohio Painting Company podcast, episode 25, folks. Can't believe it. We ran out of our bumper episodes, by the way. We recorded 7 to get started last year, and we have officially used up all of those. So this will be live immediately after we're done, pretty much. Which is fine with me. Situation behind me is still the main story because of the house we live in. It doesn't have the best internet, but like we were talking about over the last couple weeks, Starlink is really the only option. And Frontier, that's out there right now, isn't providing the juice that we need. So we're going to let Elon help us out a little bit with Starlink. And
Nice.
we're pumped up. Speaking of that house, Nick, you said you're going to start diving into so many projects, you're going to forget which one you're working on, and you're just going to start, just doing tiny little things on each project and never getting any of them done. And I started this next one by accident, and once you mess up, you got to finish it. Kind of like ripping that wallpaper off the wall. Once you get started, you can't stop. And I was putting, a good pressure wash on the siding, on the siding on the exterior of the house, just because it had a decent film over top of it. I knew it would come off because I kind of rubbed it with my finger and a little bit of it came off. It's that mossy stuff that gets stuck over the course of however many months or a year. So I do that, obviously, start high, work my way down, everything's looking good. And then I hit one of the boards on the deck. And I start to notice that it left a really clean edge down there. So I was like, oh, let me finish this board up right here. And then I go to the second one and then the third one. And then I was like, oh man, there's 6,000 spindles and support beams and railings and steps that I should probably do too. And then over the course of a week, I get done with the front porch and the back porch, all the steps, all the spindles. And it was a project that, like I said, I didn't have any plans on really doing, but those decks can hide a lot of mossy gunk,
Oh yeah.
just awful stuff that I really didn't even pick up on until I started pressure washing. So you guys pressure wash quite a bit. I've cut up the videos of you guys doing, but that's mainly for a preparation kind of thing before you paint, right? Or stain.
That is correct. Yeah. I mean, paint's only as good as the surface it's sticking to. So it's not cost effective to blast or fully remove coatings. There's projects where it needs to be done. You build that cost in, but I mean, starting costs on any kind of blasting is like $3,500 just to have the right equipment and safety parameters in place. However, with pressure washing, you can remove all dust, dirt, pollen, algae, mildew. You need to kill the source. So it's not just enough to shave it off. Like you'll topically and visibly see yourself stripping that off, but best believe that there's still some spores in there that could regerminate. And essentially, when you paint, you're creating a perfect environment for those to regerminate because you're giving it a water source. Unless you smother it with oil, you're giving it a water source and shade to continue growing, and then it grows underneath the coating, and then it causes premature failure. So things of that nature. Decks are a little bit different. I mean, you still want to bleach, but you don't have to be as crazy about it since you're using a stain and it is a little bit more breathable. But yeah, pressure washing is we pressure wash everything, and very I guess it's true. It's not really a great word, but aggressively. I mean, we pressure wash aggressively, not for then there's so many different ways to approach pressure washing.
Mm-hmm.
One for topical cleaning, which is more of a detergent wash, which doesn't really open things up. It cleans like your vinyl. If you ever see vinyl and you rub your hand on vinyl or old aluminum siding, you get that oxidation, that chalkiness that comes off on your fingers. And so to pressure wash that off with pressure needs to be perfectly consistent with the right angle all the way up and down the building. So you can use a detergent and do what they call a soft wash, and that will remove that in a more even fashion all the way across the broad side of a house. And the pressure washing that we do is a lot of times for removing potential coating failure currently on that house that we're getting ready to paint. So we can open it up, see what's working, what's not, find rotten wood. And so that summarizes kind of our approach on pressure washing from the most general standpoint. And then decks are a little different and on and on.
That didn't summarize it. I'm sure he could go on for another
Yeah, I
hour.
know. I had to cut myself off because I saw your eyes glazed over. I'm like, talk to me about music and maybe we'll have a really entertaining conversation. You talk to me about paint, you get some, what is it, butter and sausage? Or sausage,
buttered
talk about
buttered
buttered
sausage.
Okay,
Buttered sausage.
Yeah. Sorry, y'all.
That's all right.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I'm learning all kinds of things. I'm just glad I did this before I got the lesson because I was teaching myself how to do it. And you're right about that. You have to be the exact same distance away from the surface every time. The angle has to be right because that little swirly line that you see in one of those wood planks when you're way too close, you have to go back over top of that and smooth it out pretty much.
Yeah.
And so front porch, no solution whatsoever, just water. And then on the back porch, they get so much more weather back there and it catches so much more wind. So it just grabs a hold of everything. And that's where the fields are. And that's where they're, mowed down and have those enormous hay bales back there. So it grabs a lot more element than the front porch does. And it was thick, real bad. So I did go with bleach back there. And what I did was I put all of the bleach down inside of a large Dawn dish container. I started a little bit of soap in it. I kind of shook it up and I just started spraying it all over the deck and let it sit for a second and then pressure washed it off with water. I didn't have that because you guys hook up bleach to the pressure washer, right?
Little siphon hose, yeah.
Okay. I just went with the manual, squirted on the wood boards and let it do its thing for a little bit. And that was the part I was like, I really feel like I'm screwing this up. And even though it seemed to help out, it gave the wood kind of a different color versus the rest of it that I had only done with water. But is bleach the way to go?
Yes, this is, I mean, and essentially, yeah, it is probably the definitely the way to go. That will kill the spore.
Okay.
If you're just trying to kill the spore though, and you don't want to get that unevenness, you can do like he's saying with the soft wash, do that with bleach, and then take an adhesive kind of, not really an adhesive, it's an additive, like a Sealcrete or something, and it's clear, but it's for concrete normally. But you can put it on a vinyl or an aluminum, and it will bond to that chalkiness and reform it into a solid surface that will allow you to paint on top of it. You just need to do it fairly on vinyl and on aluminum, since it can't soak in like it should on concrete. It'll form like a sticky surface that'll collect things. So, you want to get paint on it fairly soon. I mean,
Right.
don't do that and then wait a year. But
Right. And I honestly think because somebody had tried to pressure wash the house before, and that aluminum siding on the back of the house, you can tell where the pressure washer was, where they stopped, and what that oxidation that is on there. They really went after it and tried to get that stuff off of there, and it's almost black now, because
Like
all
what?
of the finish is off of there.
yeah,
Right. And it kind of looks terrible, but I suppose that needs paint, but it probably needs pressure washed again because it has been so long.
Yeah.
So that might be next step. Like I said, we don't own this place. We're not going to dump too much money into it. I was bored, so I finished the deck. And there's not a terrible amount of things to do out there, in the country. But
Well, it's place, isn't it? Isn't it mother-in-law's or somebody's?
it's father-in-law's deceased mother's.
Oh, okay. So it's in the family, so it wouldn't be too bad of an idea, to do
Yeah.
little things.
Right, yeah, and we did. We dressed up the front porch with the ferns and the flowers, and
Nice.
we're planting stuff and cleaned out
Out
the
there,
garage, that kind of
Frontierland.
stuff. Uh-huh. It's about to be old Cybertruck land out there here in a little bit. with old Elon. But back to the pressure washing situation. Obviously, there are more steps after this. We didn't stain the deck. We didn't certainly didn't paint it or anything like that. So once the pressure washing's done and everything dries up, it is time for that second step. And ours was Thompson water sealer, just to make sure, and it works fantastic. I mean, when my wife goes out and waters the plants, that stuff just beads up underneath of it, and you can just, you know, wash it right off of there, and it just goes away quick. So we kind of lucked out. The neighbor saw what we were doing. He was like, "Hey, we painted our decks, and we don't have to do this as often. I got tons of this water sealer over here. I'm just going to bring it over and leave it on the porch." I'm like, "Perfect. Thank you so much. It's very generous." And
Wow.
so he did that, and application process with that, you know, I used a paint roller on a, you know, a big mop handle stick, and I was just going back and forth. It sucks it up quick. That water, you know, that wood on the deck really takes a hold of that stuff. And I ran out pretty quick.
That might be a really good applicator. Freaking mop.
Well, the mop that I bought was
Well,
really throwing a lot of I guess mop
Over-
hair, mop bristle
Okay.
down into the wood, getting stuck in there.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
I
was
can see
like,
that. Okay. All
Get stuck
right.
on the splinters and
But if
everything.
it were new wood,
Well, they make the, I mean, they make the sponge
yeah,
applicators that
those
have
are
the
yeah,
felt.
they're not,
The-
yeah, they're not whatever. But I mean, yeah.
so
No,
I
I like
broke
that.
so I broke the mop and I put a paint roller on the end of it, and I was using that
Okay.
to put it on. It seemed to work all right.
Right
And
on.
boy, just like when you're pressure washing though, there is so much more to a deck than just the floor.
Is
Because
that
it's not spindles.
no?
It's four sides of a spindle. You know,
Mhm.
you
Oh,
do
yeah.
the top to bottom, and then just to make sure I got everything, I went from the bottom to the top on every one, and that's one, two, three, four sides of a spindle because you can only get one at a time.
Then you go where the spindles go up against the railing and everything else too. So now you have another corner, or actually
Yeah.
in each of those pockets, you got an additional 8 corners. It's corners everywhere.
Yeah, it really is. And it's stuff that you really don't even think about when you get started. So if you have the time to do that, it will take more time than that, I promise. So you're going to have to really invest a couple of weekends into this. But like pressure washing those spindles, Kevin, you were talking about developing patterns, especially when it comes to painting French doors. And that was kind of the same thing. I was really taking that in, you
Yeah.
know, develop that pattern, do all of the fronts of one side of the spindle, do all of the left sides of the spindle, do all of the back sides. And then, you know, my brain doesn't work like that. I can handle that for about 15 minutes and I'm like, let me go back over here and see what I missed real quick just to get caught up. And then like I'm grilling hot dogs. Like it's completely a different situation.
Grilling glizzies.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh man, I've been doing this for 7 hours. It's time for dinner. And then I just forget what I'm doing.
Uh-huh.
Another story, and gosh, you know, I sound like such an idiot talking to you guys sometimes, but another story that came off of this, my gas can for my brand spanking new John Deere lawnmower, it has 19 hours on it. It was right next to the deck the entire time that I was pressure washing. Time to mow the grass. Go in there and I back the lawnmower out and the little gas lights flashing. I'm like, oh, it's time for some fuel in this thing. So I run around the house, I grab that gas can and I just dump it all in there. Just dump it all in there. And this was after I had run over a clothes hanger in the yard and I popped a tire on this lawnmower. So I get that fixed. And then I pretty much just fill it up with 2 gallons of water.
Oh my goodness.
And
Wow.
they had just got done with the fields in the back. So there's hay that has blown over into our yard. So the idea was to get the lawnmower and kind of blow it all back into the field. So we got nice green grass. And I made it halfway around the house and it choked on water and just died right out there. 17 hours on this lawnmower, brand new. And so I got to drain all of the fuel out of this thing. So I'm ripping lines off of the engine and shoving them back down inside of the gas can. And it finally drains out and fill it back up with gas. And it fired up and seemed to run okay. But DIY preparedness and I guess brain expansion needed to be a little bit heavier.
We're not
when
the
you're
hydrogen powered lawnmowers yet. We're just technology's not there yet.
Don't fill them up with water, okay? Or
Don't do that.
get an electric one. You don't want to fill that up with water either. But that was the situation. I've broken my lawnmower twice since being there, since being at this new place. So that's the way that is. But I think my main concern and my biggest takeaway from this was that bleach application, because I thought that was really something I was screwing up. I'm like, this has to be drying this deck out. But I guess the water sealer does what it does. And how long does that last, by the way, that water sealer?
They say 2 years, but you're probably going to find yourself doing it at least on the.
He used Thompson, so
On-
so you probably next year.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going
Oh,
to
all
say.
right, all right.
It'll probably be next year, but next time you put it on, get yourself a good, spend $80 on a good garden sprayer or like a pump
Yeah.
up sprayer with the adjustable fan nozzles, and just go back and be prepared to spend a little bit. You'll use a little bit more Thompsons, but you'll save yourself, hours and hours and hours.
If water beads up on it, don't put any more on it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, wait till the water absorbs, and then if it's close to the house where it doesn't get a lot of sun and the water's still beating up there, but it's not out, on the main part, just don't do that close to the house.
You'll
Gotcha.
find,
Because then you'll start peeling.
yeah.
I got to go to Jimmy Houston. You need to do some videos like him. I mean, like that dude. Every time he went fishing, like something
Talking
happened.
about Bill Dance.
No,
not
Jimmy Houston.
Bill Dance also does that too.
Was he like just a goofy guy, internet sensation?
Bill
Is he
Dance?
a
Okay.
DIYer?
Jimmy Houston, right
All right.
there.
All right, that is Chris
I need to
Farley
go
and
on.
John Daly mixed together.
Oh yeah. I mean, but this guy,
Ooh,
yeah.
yeah.
But this guy, I mean, whenever he'll be, countless things. It doesn't matter what it is, but I mean, I could just see like the spilled paint in the backyard. You
Yeah.
just use that up, just everything. You need to really, you just need to get a bunch of video cameras hanging out. Go get you a bunch of what are those things called? The GoPros. Yeah,
GoPros, yeah.
and hang them up on the outside of the house. Whenever you get out there working, just turn them all on. 'cause you don't know
Full
where it's
surveillance.
at. Yeah.
Full DIY surveillance on my inevitable screw ups.
But it's everybody though. I mean, especially me. I mean, I am like, or maybe it's just in our family. Maybe that's what. Yeah.
Maybe.
No, it's just a people. It's a people thing.
It's a people thing.
It happens to me. And here's the thing: is I'll overthink anything before I get into it, and then I come up with an idea like strapping razor blades to an end of a rake and like
Right. Yeah.
yeah. And then more goes wrong faster. So anyhow, you learn through mistakes. That's the best. It's the best learning process in the world.
Yep, it sure is. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much. When it comes to pressure washing, and if you have any other questions, you can maybe go through this video again. If you missed anything, Kevin and Nick, they're going to tell you how it's done, how they do it, and they're not going to lead you down the wrong path. So good stuff, fellas. We appreciate it very much. That's the Ohio Painting Company podcast. Feel free to leave us a review and like and subscribe wherever you find us on social media. Kevin and Nick, we'll talk soon.
See you, buddy.
Hey guys.